The following short video is intended to provide instruction on the recommended assembly and loading procedure for the STAR MSI series injectors used in conjunction with the MTC-60C cartridge. This injector system has been validated for use with the crystalens AT45 SE as well as the AT50 SE. The procedures are identical for both lenses, therefore we will demonstrate using only the AT50. There are two injector handpieces from which to choose. The MSI TF uses a threaded end cap to facilitate the smooth and linear advancement of the lens, while the MSI PF has a spring-loaded plunger providing more dynamic delivery. Now confirm you have the following ancillary disposables and instrumentation: a sterile beaker of BSS, a highly cohesive viscoelastic, a pair of Cumming or similar non-tooth forceps, an MTC-60C cartridge, and foam tip plunger. We begin by inserting the foam tip plunger with the fin of the plastic sleeve aligned with the notch on the front tip of the handpiece. Slide all the way in and hold while advancing the push rod of the handpiece by either pressing in on the spring-loaded plunger or rotating the threaded end cap in a clockwise fashion. Do so until you feel and hear a positive snap, indicating successful attachment of the plunger to the push rod. Now remove the protective sleeve, retract the push rod, and place the distal end of the handpiece into a sterile beaker of BSS in order to allow the foam tip plunger to hydrate. Remove the lid from the crystalens case. Then take the cartridge and flare the wings out slightly so that they form an angle of approximately 70 degrees. Now fill the cartridge with viscoelastic, beginning at the tip and drawing back slowly to ensure even and adequate coverage of the rear portion of the chamber. Using forceps, remove the crystalens from its case. Confirm the right loop of the leading haptic is round, indicating the anterior surface of the lens is facing up. Insert the lens into the loading chamber from the rear, carefully guiding the lens so that the loops and the optic remain below the ledges of the cartridge. Continue to advance the lens until the leading haptic is just even with the cartridge funnel. Now gradually open and retract the forceps. Now close the cartridge wings and confirm the lens is in the proper position. The lens should remain well centered in the loading chamber with the leading and trailing loops pointing towards the rear. Backfill the rear chamber with viscoelastic as necessary. Insert the cartridge into the front of the injector handpiece and rotate to lock. Then advance the push rod using either the threaded end cap or the spring-loaded plunger until the leading loops of the lens are just behind the distal tip of the cartridge. The injector is now ready for use. Now let's review the assembly and loading process in real time. First, take the foam tip plunger, slide in the front of the injector handpiece, hold firmly, advance the push rod, snap to lock, retract the foam tip, place in sterile BSS. Now remove the lid of the crystalens case, take the cartridge, flare the wings out so they're approximately 70 degrees apart. Now carefully fill the cartridge with viscoelastic, starting at the tip, working backwards, making sure to evenly coat the rear portion of the loading chamber. Using the Cumming forceps, remove the crystalens from its case. Confirm the round loop is to the right, and then slide into the rear of the loading chamber, making sure the loops and the optic stay below the ledges of the cartridge. Then carefully retract the forceps. Now close the cartridge wings, ensure the lens is in proper position, and remove the injector handpiece from the beaker. Insert the cartridge in the front of the injector handpiece and rotate to lock. Then carefully advance the push rod until the leading loops of the lens are just behind the distal tip of the cartridge. Adhering to the following critical success factors will help ensure optimal performance of this injector system. It is imperative that the foam tip plunger be fully saturated with BSS prior to loading the cartridge into the handpiece. Failure to do so may result in the foam tip plunger overriding the trailing haptic, resulting in lens damage. Flare the cartridge out to 70 degrees. Confirm that the round loop of the leading haptic is to the right. Helon was the specific viscoelastic used in the validation process. Therefore, it is recommended that you use Helon or a viscoelastic with very similar properties. Always insert the lens into the loading chamber from the rear and confirm that it is in the appropriate position after closing the cartridge wings. This concludes the in-service video. Should you have further questions or require clinical support, please contact the Eyeonics call center at 888-EYEONICS.